two indispensable supports, firmest props to human happiness, political prosperity, and popular government. You take the Christian religion out of the picture, you try to push it out of the public sector, morality is going to wane, and the entire enterprise will collapse and dissolve. Now that's what the first president of our country said. It's almost as if he looked down the corridors of time over 2 centuries and anticipated exactly what is happening to this nation. Benjamin Franklin, I would put him with Thomas Jefferson in suggesting that he was the least religious of the founding fathers. At the Constitutional Convention, Revolutionary War had been won. They now turned their attention to establishing the foundations of government, hammering out the Constitution, the federal document that would guide the nation indefinitely into the future. You get a bunch of politicians together, you know, they're going to haggle and argue and fuss and fight. He finally rose one day and said, "In this situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it when presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understanding?" That's not found in any other religious location on the planet except the Bible. Technical way to refer to God. In the beginning of the contest with Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard and they were graciously answered. And have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Or do we imagine we no longer need His assistance? I have lived, sir, a long time. The longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth. God governs in the affairs of men. You recognize that statement? And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without His notice, you recognize that statement? Somebody take out their pencil and start writing down how many scriptures are being quoted in these political speeches. How many preachers ought to be ashamed for their lack of reliance upon Scripture to guide their sermonic thoughts, let alone our nation's political thoughts? If a sparrow can't fall to the ground without His notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without His aid? How many people today believe that in this country? We've been assured, sir, in the sacred writings. Really? Which ones are you talking about? Because, you know, we need to be accepting of all, and we've got the Buddhist Pitakis, we have the Hindu Vedas, we have a lot of Native American religion that preceded the Europeans' arrival to this country, so we need to be accepting and tolerant of that. What sacred writings are you talking about? Well, we've been assured in the sacred writings that except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Oh, those sacred writings. Psalm 127 verse 1. I firmly believe this. And I also believe that without His concurring aid, whose aid? Now wait, Franklin was a deist and believed that whatever deity there was, he was removed, separate, didn't have anything to do. Oh no. Without His concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. Where did you get that? Genesis 11. We shall be divided by our partial local interests, our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and byword down to future ages. Another reference to Psalms. I'm ashamed to say, folks, that when I first went through this, I picked out several of the passages, but I missed others. I had to go back and get out my concordance. I wonder if this document was laid on the desks of every politician in this country and every American history student in the country. I wonder how many of them would recognize whether or not there are any Bible passages in these speeches. That's how far our nation has become alienated from God and His Word. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessing on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, that one or more of the clergy of this city be requested to officiate in this service. I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin, but you are an ignoramus. You can't do that. That violates church and state. It goes against what we're trying to do here in setting up this country and this. Well, as soon as we get the Constitution written, you'll take back that ridiculous proposal. Believe it or not, that continues to this day. Hadn't been eradicated yet. I don't know why. But it hasn't. He's the one that started that.
Welcome back to Truth Seekers. So Benjamin Franklin, one of the least spiritual Christian people, founders of the country, was quoting scripture right and left, saying we need to refer to Holy Writ. That is holy. That's the God that brought us through the war. That's the God we need to rely on. And we need to have prayer whenever we open sessions. And they had a minister to be hired, money set aside from the public sector to have prayer before each session, because he recognized that without God, this country is going to eventually fall apart. So now we're a democracy, 51% rules. So whatever people one day want to vote in and vote out the other, just vote it in. If you get enough people with a different viewpoint into the country, which Satan is working at through many different avenues, who have no idea of any of this, and most of the people brought up, as he said, don't have any idea of most of these scriptures, and that the whole country is based upon scripture. All the laws initially were based on scripture. Was it Blackburns or Black something or other? His book was used for the basis of law, and he just quoted totally from the Bible to base everything for law from that. Jay, anything you want to add to that?
Well, just, we started out with church and state. And in that, you have, I just made a couple little notes, Mike. Church and state equals loving one another, which equals a republic. And then you look at where we're at today in the separation of church and state, and we have this diversification in hate. And they call this a democracy. So we've gone from the absolute, and we've compromised, and now we've set the absolute and set it in an ecumenical absolute, and it's ushered in the society that we have today. It's quite evidentially incredible, Mike, because God said, when you disobey, this is the consequences of disobedience. The one who laid out the law, who knew what was best for us, and said, just do it, and you will prosper, your barns will overflow, your vines will produce fruit.
If you follow me, I made the whole universe. I know what's going to work for you. I made it all. I made you. I keep you alive. Your DNA, the atoms in you together are not falling apart.
And look where we're at today, Mike. It's just absolutely incredible. Why would you embrace diversification and separation and democracy when we have the history books that tell us about?
Because people don't read anymore. We watch TV, we come home exhausted, and people are not seeking for truth. God says, you shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. You have to search for truth with all your heart. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, he said. So you're going to find him if you're just searching for truth. How about we watch this next section of film, because this next section really hits on Christianity. I think we may have a call coming in, but it hits on Christianity being mentioned by these people in the public sector all the time as the basis. Not any particular religion, but Christianity.